This episode contains explicit content.
Welcome to No Filter. I'm Mia Friedman. Samantha X describes herself as a normal person who does an unconventional job.
You know, we're just normal women that do unconventional jobs and enjoy it.
She's a 43-year-old businesswoman, a journalist, an author, a mother of 2 primary school-age kids, and she has sex with men for money. But that's not all she does with the men who pay her $1,200 an hour. She also does a lot of listening and talking. She goes out to dinner with them, and sometimes they even take her overseas, first class.
That was a very pretty woman kind of relationship. He was very nice.
Samantha's real name is Amanda Goff, and Amanda is relatively new to sex work. Her former career was as a journalist. Her last job was in glossy magazines, and it was actually there while interviewing a stripper that she became interested in the sex industry. She started working in a bordello, as she describes it, soon after becoming a single mother, and it was there that she was sexually assaulted. After that, she decided to go out on her own and go high class as an escort. And then after doing that for a few years, she wrote a book and came out in a very public and controversial TV interview where the most scandalous thing seemed to be that she volunteered regularly at her kids' school canteen. People lost their minds over that. The idea of a double life is always intriguing. Now, Samantha has written another book with a surprising and at times very ugly love twist. She also has her own agency, Samantha's Angels, where most of her escorts are over 35 and her oldest is 61. I had so many questions. What happens when you get your period? Has porn changed what men want from sex workers? Can you date as a normal person? How do you deal with clients who think they're your boyfriend? And what happens when you fall in love with a client? Because that's what recently happened to Amanda, and it's been an incredibly painful and damaging experience for her. Here's Samantha X. Amanda Goff. Amanda, it's so lovely to meet you finally.
Thank you, likewise.
I've followed your story, and when you came out from being a magazine writer and journalist, we used to work in the same building, and I don't know if I'm sure we were at a lot of the same beauty functions and things. Yes. But I remember not thinking that it was that much of a big deal.
You're right.
But it was for you at the time. And I can't imagine, I know everyone focused on the fact that you were a mother and how could you come out and what would your parents think. I just wanted to ask you about what that process was like in the aftermath, because I've gone back on your website and I've found a blog post that you wrote a little while after that. And I want to ask you now what your memory of that time was.
Oh, that's a good question. I think looking back, I was just in a bit of a blur and just getting through each day. I had lots of support around me with friends. And, you know, there were times where some of the trolls were really nasty about me. I remember once.
I'm so shocked to hear that.
Oh, yeah.
Being nasty about a woman in the public eye.
I know, but you know, it came from other women as well. A lot of the time,
Tends to.
And other escorts sometimes. But one woman said, "I hope you get AIDS and die." And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So as a journalist, you develop a tough skin anyway, but I developed a really tough skin.
Deciding to come out, was that a business decision?
It was a bit of both, probably. I was a journalist. I'd written a book. I knew that I would be outed if I didn't identify myself. And I didn't want to be outed in my dressing gown, looking like a piece of crap on my front door.
You wanted to control the narrative.
I wanted to control it. And also I had no shame in what I did. So I felt I didn't have to run away from it. I wanted to sort of provide a voice for the industry. And there are already good voices out there, but I wanted to provide a different kind of voice for the industry and challenge people's misguided judgment or perception. So while it was shocking for everyone else, I mean, some people weren't shocked at all, particularly my ex-colleagues. But
why were they not shocked?
I don't know why they weren't shocked. But they said to me they weren't that shocked. Although I'm a girl's girl, I'm just fiercely a girl's girl. I love the company of men and partners or boyfriends. Yeah.
And you were uninhibited or?
I guess I was uninhibited, yes.
Yeah. And you say that by the time you decided to come out, how long had you been an escort for?
About 2.5 years.
Now, I need to get some words right with you because I've got in all sorts of trouble in the past
for
using the incorrect terminology.
Yes.
And I know that different people prefer to be called different things. You use the term escort. Sex worker?
Yes, sex worker is fine. I have a real problem with the word prostitute.
Yes, and I learnt the hard way when I went on Q&A, and I used the word prostitute because I thought it was the most polite word. But I learned very quickly that it wasn't, and that sex workers prefer to be called sex workers.
Yes.
Why is prostitute such an offensive term?
I was thinking about that today. I think prostitute is a negative term. I sort of think it implies that women don't have a choice, that we are forced to turn tricks on street corners because we have, a variety of issues. But to me, prostitution implies you don't have a choice. I feel I've made an educated, informed decision to do this. I left a very successful career to do this. And I like to think myself as a businesswoman who has an unconventional type of business. Of course, it's sex work. We can't ignore the fact that sexism is part of the job, which is, funny enough, the easiest part of the job. But prostitution, I think, is the seedy side of it, the illegal side of it, the pimping side of it. And the women I meet today who are in the industry, they're far from prostitutes.
So after you went public, you said, my time as an escort is coming to an end. It is. My lease expired on my unit in the city and I decided not to renew it. I felt sad as I packed up, my stockings draped over chairs, my pearl necklace hanging over the bedpost. When I closed the door for the final time, I knew it symbolised the end of something, not just the pretty unit with water views. But I knew that I wouldn't get another unit. I didn't want to. I don't want to. I've met a few nice men that I would date, but I can't because Samantha X is afraid of love. I'm sick of being afraid. I'm sick of sleeping alone. So you decided how long after coming out that you were done?
A few months. And that was for lots of reasons. I felt that I wanted to find love, and I still sleep alone, by the way. And I did find love, and I did find it with Mr. Big, and him in my life made me want to stop working.
So that was around that time that you wanted to. So I'll get to Mr. Big. When I started your book, I didn't read your first book, and I thought that this book would be a jaunty rollick through different clients and good stories, which it is. But it starts, surprisingly, with you having an argument with your boyfriend, who you call Mr. Big, in a hotel room because you found out that he's been sleeping with sex workers. Yeah. And that's not how I expected your book to start.
Well, that's not how I expected my life to end up. And I really understood how women must feel when they find their partners cheating with women, sex workers or not. And it's actually a horrible, horrible feeling. And in that hotel room, I remember thinking, is this how women feel? Is this how wives feel? And I really felt my angels were looking at me going, we told you, this is what happened. We told you. So it was a really, really horrible night for me. And, I felt sick in my stomach and I was so jealous. And, is she prettier than me? Has she got a better body than me? Like the thoughts that go through any woman's head when they find out their partner has been sleeping with someone. It's irrelevant what job they do, but it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening.
Because you copped it a lot after that Sunday night thing for saying that you were helping marriages stay together.
Why do you believe that you're saving marriages?
Where else are men going to go? Where else are they going to have that outlet? I'm happy to be that outlet because I'm happy that I make them happy, so they go home happy.
Right, so you see yourself as part of the solution.
Yeah, and I still believe that. And I know that's inflamed a lot of women. But I also think that some people live in denial at their marriages. And we wouldn't exist if the demand wasn't there. And I truly still believe that sex workers can help marriages. And I know that we have in some cases. Look, I'm not saying seeing an escort is a great way to save your marriage, but most men have no outlet and they have no one to talk to. And I realise that by listening to so many men. Like, women talk to each other all the time. We have support networks. Men very rarely have that.
Yeah, and when I was watching this interview and you were explaining it, I thought quite well. And your point was really that I don't want to be with them. And you talk about this in the book as well. Yeah. I'm not going to take them away. No. My desire is not to become their new wife.
Absolutely not.
I'll be like, thank you very much. I'll take my money. Goodbye. And in most cases, they just go back to their wives.
Yes, and they love their wives and they would never leave their wives. But for whatever reason, they've been married for 30, 40 years and the intimacy is gone. They sleep in separate bedrooms. Half the time they say that their wives wouldn't even care, One client said to me recently, this isn't cheating. And I said, really? Well, in that case, why don't you tell your girlfriend about it? So to me it is cheating, to me it is straying, but men don't see it like that. It's incredible.
So I imagine business boomed as well as all the trolls. The upside is that people decided that they wanted to.
But I didn't take any of those clients. I didn't work. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know. I just felt I wanted to run away for a bit, and
You felt too exposed?
I felt too exposed, and I wasn't sure whether it was going to be a journalist stitching me up or So I took a few months off, and I also was in love. And then when I realised I missed the job and I missed Samantha. And
so your alter ego.
Yeah, I love Samantha. She's much more exciting than me. She has better lingerie. When Amanda's in town, the high heels gather dust. I live in activewear.
I bet Samantha doesn't get a period.
No, neither does Amanda, because I'm on the marina.
Bingo, snap, me too.
Yeah, oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I used to have really heavy periods. I used to have blood transfusions every time I had a period. So,
but that wouldn't be very good when you're a sex worker.
No.
Heavy periods.
No, well, they cost a lot of money. I used to call my period the $5,000 period. Because I used to cancel jobs.
And you talk about also in the book about getting a cold sore. That's a liability for a sex worker.
Yes.
And you had to cancel all your clients but one.
And the only one that saw me was a doctor. Because he knew that everyone's got the herpes virus anyway. So, you have to be on top of your game. Being sober has helped. I did go through a period, and, I'll be honest, where I was drinking too much. And I decided to stop that, because this industry, the one thing it can promote is a lot of drinking champagne, that lifestyle. If you're with a client at lunchtime and he wants champagne, and then another client in the evening, champagne, but before you know it, you've had 5 bottles in a week. So I've decided to cut all that out, and I've become much better at my job, much more in control, and this job is about power and control.
You then started the agency. Your agency was called Samantha X Angels.
Yep. Yeah, I do, and I've had to employ someone to answer all the emails from women. I get
who want to be angels.
Yes, women from the army, from law, from a doctor I had, bank managers, mums at school. You name it, any profession. Married women who've lost weight and want to celebrate their new body, women who are in charge of 40 staff, smart women who have their own businesses, who don't need the money necessarily. It's not always about money, it's about empowerment for them. And I know that's a word that's been bandied around so much, but it is about female empowerment for them. And I see the shift in the women when they start working. They come in to see me, not sad, but sort of worried about money, or most of them are single mothers. They've left their husband who's a prominent businessman. He's left them no money. They've been on a few dates where they felt used, and then I see them after a few jobs, and they get their sparkle back, and it's so nice to see. And they can pay their rent. And these are women who work. They're not women who just sit at home doing nothing. These are women
who do it on the side for some extra cash.
Yeah, but they want to do it full time.
Is that possible to earn a living for most people?
You can, yes, you can. The agency is, it's feast or famine in this job. School holidays are quiet, tax time's quiet, Christmas is usually quiet. So
what are the busy times?
Weekdays.
During the day?
Yeah.
And where?
Hotels.
Hotels in the CBD?
Yep. Or dinner dates. Dinner dates are popular for me. I go on lots of dinners.
But aren't these men worried that someone will see them out with you?
No. Incredibly not. I think some men almost want to get caught subconsciously. And even when they are caught, they always come back. And I'm not saying just to me, but 9 times out of 10, they will wait till the dust settles and then they'll come back. And to me, it means that the reason why they're coming is still there. They're not addressing the issues of why they need to come. Some men, I have this theory that out of the married men that I see, and not all of them are married, by the way, but out of the married men I see, most do it because their needs aren't being met. They have separate bedrooms, separate lives. But a small percent would do it anyway. They just like variety.
I want to ask you about some of the regulars and some of the clients that you talk about in your book. One of the most interesting things you say is that you're always asked, do you just have sex the whole time?
Yeah.
And you say that there is a surprising amount of dates or appointments or work that doesn't involve sex.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, I've introduced a new non-intimate date where there's no physical touch, and it's surprisingly popular.
How much does that cost?
$800 for 90 minutes, $2,000 for a lunch or dinner.
And what do I get for that?
My company, believe it or not.
And why do men say that they want that?
For whatever reason.
Interesting. You came up with this product, I suppose it is. For what reason? Because
the demand was there.
Right. People ringing and saying, look, I'd really like to have lunch with you, but do I have to have sex?
Yeah, basically. I'll never forget one man rang me up and said he wanted to book one of my girls, but he was sick of these escorts who just wanted sex the whole time. I had to laugh. But surprisingly, some men might be going through breakups and not ready. One client's wife was dying of cancer and he just wanted someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And why these men don't go to psychologists, or maybe they do as well, I don't know. But I'm a hell of a lot more expensive than a psychologist. And I think men feel more comfortable in talking to a woman, maybe when she's not wearing much clothes. I don't know. And I've always said when people are naked, they're at their most honest and vulnerable. And there's a real, whether you're, own a multi-million-dollar company or whether you're a window cleaner, they're all the same men, and they have their very simple needs.
There was one guy who's like 21 who books you for 3 hours or maybe overnight at Crown.
Oh, yes.
At Crown Towers.
Gregory,
Tell me about that date.
That was my non-sexual date. That was a non-sexual date, but I didn't realise it until I got there. And he had, I think he was a tradie, I can't remember now. And he had spent thousands on the suite, thousands, and plus my fee, which was $3,000. And he was only 21. And, I walked in, there was, marble everywhere and this bottle of champagne and, and we just sat watching TV for 4 hours. The cricket, CSI. I mean, that is girlfriend experience to the extreme, because I don't know many girlfriends that would do that. But if he told me off for being in his personal space. If I sat too close to him, he didn't want to take his clothes off because he was so proud of wearing nice clothes. And when I tried to leave, he tried to get me to stay to watch more TV. So
It's kind of sad in a way. It's a bit heartbreaking and endearing at the same time.
Yes, it is. It is. It just makes me realise that some men have no outlet, which is why I wanted to write books, because I wanted to let people know that, clients are not rapists and paedophiles. They're just very, very normal men with very, very normal requests and needs. Very, very simple.
What about the hermit, Mr. Hermit?
Oh, yeah, he's gorgeous.
Tell the story of Mr. Hermit.
So he is late 50s and very, very, I think I said in the book, if there was a male version of Eleanor Rigby, it would be him. He has the same breakfast, lunch and dinner every night. And nighttime was his dinner was most fascinating to me, because it was a Michelle Bridges meal every night.
He lives alone and he lives
alone, no family, has the same job for 22 years, doesn't like people. I think the only friends he has are escorts. And he's like an animal with his soul. He's pure, just pure soul. And there's no sex with him again. He pays thousands of dollars just to sit and talk to you, a bit of kissing, bit of cuddling.
And that's all he wants.
Yeah.
Do those dates require more effort and energy sometimes than just sex? Like you write in the book about sometimes you just want to have sex and go home.
Sex is a welcome relief. It's the mental. It's exhausting. It's like going from one board meeting to another meeting. It's just exhausting, because you have to be switched on and you have to be fully focused and present for 4 hours, which is really in a dark hotel room is exhausting. I've fallen asleep many, many times on the shoulders of clients. Not through great sex, but through listening and being present. So. Yeah, you have to be mentally very switched on. You can't afford to drop the ball at all, because they'll catch you out.
The other thing that surprised me is that I expected the sex to be much more about them taking, but there's a lot of you receiving oral sex in most chapters from most of your clients.
It's so funny. You're so right, Mia, because in my real life, the odd occasion when I go on a date, I don't get oral sex. But when I'm with a client, it's like, how can we please you? How can I please you? What makes you? What do you like, Samantha? It's all about pleasing the woman, and you're treated like a goddess, and then you get a bit of slap of reality when you go on a date in real world, where you might have to go Dutch on the bill, and then a quick shag, and that's it if you're lucky. It's not the escorting world is a very it's seductive, because it's all about you, and it's not all about the client. It's all they worship you, and I think a woman in their 40s, 50s, and 60s it's the best job in the world. I truly believe that. I know that some people will have a problem with that, but it in my experience, it's been real eye-opening.
The other, stereotype that you blow up is this idea that all men want to sleep with 22-year-olds.
Absolute rubbish. That's one of the biggest misconceptions. I only employ women over 35. My oldest was 62. She had all the young, handsome clients.
Who? How? What?
She was a grandmother of 5, married. It was her husband's idea. She started at 62. She turned up to my interview with a David Jones bag, and I said, "What's in the David Jones bag?" And she's like a little old lady. She said, "Stockings and suspenders, dear. I was early for the interview." And she was very popular. Really, and she was $800 an hour, and there's no Botox, nothing fake about her. She was, grey haired, glasses, spectacles. She was
proper nana. So I don't understand. Like, I would have thought that porn, although something I have learned about the porn industry, that there's this kind of wasteland. Either you need to be a teenager or a MILF.
Yeah.
There's a wasteland for women in their 20s, actually.
Yeah.
So they either want them very young or older.
Yes. Look, I think there's something for everyone, and that's the beauty of this industry is that everyone wants, I'm not everyone cup of tea, and neither is a 21-year-old. But in this, at this level of escorting, men choose, longer dates, which usually mean more talking.
The GFE, the Girlfriend Experience, which was a TV show.
Yeah. But, the PSE, the porn star experience, men don't even know what that means, really.
What does that mean?
Well, it doesn't really, it means, more.
Does it mean you have to do it in the bottom?
Oh, there's no way anything goes near my bottom.
I was so glad to read that.
Nothing goes near my bottom.
No judgment.
No,
but
yeah.
I just assumed that that's one of the reasons that men go and see
No.
sex workers sometimes. Is for
my clients would be horrified.
Yeah, right.
No, nothing goes.
I also just assumed that you had to do whatever men wanted, and men all wanted anal because that's what they've seen in porn, and lots of their partners and wives don't want to do it. So I assumed that they go to sex workers, and sex workers have to say yes because they're paying.
Well, part of that's correct. I think a lot of men who want that service do go to sex workers, but I truly believe, and every single sex worker in the world goes by my body, my choice. So you're in control. We're in control. Women are in control of their bodies. So no man can dictate what we do or don't do with our body. I don't care how much money someone offers me. Nothing goes near my bum. Nothing. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And I've learned, funnily enough, I learned boundaries when I became a sex worker.
So the porn star experience does not have to include anything that you don't want to do?
No.
What does it include?
Well, a bit of come on face, come on boobs,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Less the stuff that you probably wouldn't do as a girlfriend.
Oh God, I mean, I've been girlfriends. I've been a long-term partner. You can't be bothered to do stuff like that. You don't want to get the sheets dirty.
No.
So, yeah.
More with Samantha in a minute. But first, here is an unsponsored message about one of the charities we support here at Mamamia.
When families flee domestic violence situations, they often leave quickly and leave with nothing. Rize Up is a community-based group that is there to bridge that gap. They provide practical help to families who need to get back up on their feet. Whether it's food, blankets, beds or clothes, they find it. Every family deserves a home free from domestic and family violence. Like and follow Rize Up on Facebook to be part of a community that makes a difference. Search for Rize Up. That's RIZE on Facebook.
We ran a feature story on Mamamia recently where we interviewed a lot of sex workers about the prevalence of sexual assault among sex workers and how it's something that they're not able to report because the police don't take you seriously, and there's this whole hidden thing, and there's the ugly mugs list that apparently goes around among sex workers that is a list of men who are known to sexually assault sex workers. Is that something that you've come across? Have you always felt safe in your work?
I've been sexually assaulted, and I have been sexually assaulted in my real life too.
Because you make it sound very pretty woman.
Right. They're definitely, this job comes at a heavy price. I know that. So I don't think sex work is the issue. I think men are the issue, and not all men, obviously. But I went to the police and I reported it, and they arrested him, and they only knew his first name. So they took me seriously. So I would urge any woman who has been assaulted, whether they be a sex worker or not, to go to the police.
Did that change the way you operated?
I created Samantha after that. So I became a very, very strong woman after that. And it wasn't so much the assault that upset me. It was the way I was treated by the establishment, by the female-run establishment. I was basically shown the door.
When you say the establishment, you meant the brothel, bordello that you were working in?
Yeah. So because I was sexually assaulted, I was sacked.
They didn't want trouble?
No. And that was more of a kick in the stomach than being assaulted. way more. Because I think most women in their lives have had an incident with a man sexually that they might not have wanted. And I don't think you're any more at risk of that as a sex worker. I think with online things these days, you can be assaulted. You don't know who you're seeing.
When, we've sort of had a laugh and talked about it, and you're so glamorous and beautiful, and your life does seem like awesome. You talk about the dark side. I think it's probably important to spell out what that is.
I'm very, very careful not to glamorize the industry.
Yeah.
It comes at a huge cost. Number one is women fear misguided judgment, and a lot of them don't want to show their faces, or they're scared if so-and-so finds out they might be blackmailed, that does happen. Number two, relationships become very hard, very, very tricky to navigate for me. I know a lot of escorts are married or have partners, but I find that incredibly hard. And also the allure of, the cash, the alcohol, that kind of nighttime life, it's addictive. And that's why I like when the young girls come to me for mentoring. I advise them not to do this industry until they're in their 30s, when they've had kids, maybe when they've got qualifications. I would hate if anyone dropped out of college, something, so they've got something to fall back on, because once you start this industry, it's incredibly hard to leave, because where else can you earn a couple of $1,000s for 2 hours work? Enjoyment, like going to a 5-star hotel and a 5-star restaurant and going first class to the Bahamas. You can't. So it's very addictive, and I would like to see women do this part-time, as well as carrying on with their qualifications or their uni. Or
make
whatever.
it your side hustle, quite literally.
Yeah,
Don't make it your day job.
Well, some women, I did it for a while as my day job, and I loved it, but you burn out quickly. You need to have breaks, and you always keep sober and keep in control.
You talk about in the book your relationship with Mr. Big, which threads through the book. He's a sort of a high-powered, a Richard Gere type of character.
Yes. Not as good looking.
And a Mr. Gere, a Mr. Big type of character from
Yes.
Sex and the City, which you borrow that name to disguise his identity. You meet him after you've come out and you've been on TV.
No, I met it. I knew him
before that. So he'd emailed you. How had he come across you? How did he know who you were?
The minute because there's a website for escorts where we advertise, and the minute I put my tour dates up in Melbourne, I got the email from Mr. Big.
So a tour, when you're an escort and you go on tour.
I mostly only work on when I travel.
So that means you go on tour, you go to another city, and you stay at a hotel and you have appointments booked.
Yep.
Over a series of days.
So I'm going to Melbourne this week, and I'll have a dinner date or an overnight. I don't see more than usually one client a day when I go on tour. But then when I'm back in Sydney, I don't work.
So he reached out to you in a way that you found actually really annoying.
Yeah.
Because he seemed arrogant.
Yes.
And you're in the privileged position of not having to take clients that you don't want to take.
Yep.
I once interviewed a sex worker, Madison Messina.
I know Madison. Yep,
who's lovely.
Yep.
And we were talking about rates. And at the time, I think she was charging maybe $800. And I said, does that make you the highest paid? And she said, no, that's Samantha X. And
Did she say that?
Yeah, she did. She said, and I specifically don't want to charge that because she said when you are the highest paid, it attracts a certain type of man who wants the highest paid, and often they're an asshole.
Yeah.
Because it's like a status thing.
Yeah. I've not had an arsehole client.
But people who've tried to book you.
Oh, God. I had the arsehole ones at $600 an hour too.
Yeah, right.
Rates are a really contentious issue on some escorts.
Yeah,
because we're all equal. We're all equal.
Well, a vagina is a vagina.
A vagina
really.
is a vagina, exactly. Mind you, I would love to have a rejuvenated vagina. I have no idea what that means, but I want one.
I hope you can get it back on tax. I would assume that you could.
I could. That's not a bad idea.
No. Free financial advice on this podcast.
So rates,
why are they contentious?
Because some girls charge $400 an hour, and myself I charge $1,100 an hour.
How do you decide?
Plus GST, by the way, I'm 1,000 plus GST. How do you decide? It's a really good question. I just pulled it. I just decided that because I'd written a book and I didn't want to work that much. I think because I don't like to see a lot of clients.
More money, less clients.
Exactly. Work smarter, not harder. So my clients are all lovely, and some of them can't afford that. I mean, I've got a client who's a cleaner, and he saves. So it's not about attracting the arseholes of the world. You can be an arsehole with no money, and you can be a really nice man who's worth $500 million,
Right.
So my arsehole clients are the really, really good-looking ones who think they're doing me a favour.
I thought that was so interesting because you say that people assume that the hardest part of the job will be the, quote marks, unattractive clients, sleeping with men who are not attractive.
No, I have orgasms with those men. Those men are the ones I have orgasms with. They're
Is
really
it 'cause
good.
they
Look,
try harder?
I don't know. I think I just relax more. You know, and I don't care if I fart, and I don't care if I do embarrassing things. Whereas a really good-looking man, I freeze. I become like a gibbering idiot with a good-looking man.
And you also say that they can be like, oh, you should be paying
Yes,
me. And all
that's
that
the
kind of stuff.
attitude. You know, that they expect it for free because they're good-looking, or they send you pictures of their abs or their dick. And no woman likes a dick pic because dicks really aren't that attractive.
Not in a photo.
No.
Or in real life, really.
No, exactly. So, you know, I'll be out walking my dogs and get a dick pic, and I'm like, oh my God.
So the good-looking ones are often the more arrogant ones and the dates that are less fun.
Yep. If a client says to me, hey, he's really attractive and handsome, sends a picture of his gorgeous body, I usually will say no.
The real story of this book, or the sort of the thread that runs through it, is the descent of your relationship with Mr. Big that starts with you falling in love with a client, which is the first no-no, right? And something you thought would never happen. Is that seen as very unethical? Seems to be the wrong word, but just a bad idea.
Well, number one, you lose your income from that client.
At what point did you stop charging him? And did you discuss that?
Well, he paid me what they call a retainer. So he'd give me a certain amount of money a month not to work.
That was different though. At what point did he start getting sex from you for free before you gave up work?
Pretty quickly.
And how did you negotiate that?
I don't know. I just felt too guilty.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't separate it. I was just thinking of him the whole time, and you know, I tried to give up work and I couldn't give up work.
He wanted you to give up work.
Yeah, I think it's really unfair because he wanted me to give up work, yet he wasn't. I was still a secret in his life, and I just knew that was never going to change. So I wasn't going to give up someone I'd created, and I wasn't going to give up my independence that easily.
But you still had your agency. You could have still had an income through the girls that you employ, or the girls who work for you.
Yeah, it wasn't in the same level of money I was making, and also it was more the I guess at the end of the day, Mia, I didn't trust him enough to give it up for some. And I don't think you should.
And you
really,
were right.
I was right, but you don't. I feel as a woman, you should never have to give anything up for a man. I think you do it when you're ready, not because someone else tells you to.
He wasn't married, but he wouldn't introduce you to his kids or his family or his friends.
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
Shit, my self-esteem took a real plummet. You know, and I kept on getting the message, you're not, you know, you no one else wants you, you're this, you know, like any abusive relationship, it doesn't take a black eye for you to be abused. Sometimes the mental abuse is far worse, and it took me a while to realise I was in an abusive relationship until my friends, you know, my best friend banned him from the house. You know, I'm still healing.
Your friends always see it before
they
you do.
And in the end, my best friend said to me, if you talk to that man once more, I can never speak to you again. And I did talk to him, and she cut me off for a while. And that was my oxygen gone. I couldn't. If you lose a girlfriend, that's the worst thing that can happen.
How long ago did you break up with him?
A few months ago. So I'm still healing. It's still raw, you know, because just because you break up with someone, just because the relationship's not right, doesn't mean you don't love them anymore, even though you know it's dangerous and toxic. You know, I still love parts of him because he wasn't a psychopath when I met him. You know, he's very, very charming.
But they always are to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I said once to one journalist that it was like a python around my neck, squeezing. Before you know it, you're stuck.
You are.
And
frog in boiling water.
Yep, that's exactly right. And your confidence has hit rock bottom. And I never wrote this book intending it to help women, but the amount of women that have said, I'm in a toxic relationship too, and it's very, very hard to get out of those kind of relationships unscathed because your confidence, and I was supposed to be this confident woman, you know, this really brave woman, and I felt like a fraud because it happened to me. I was one of those victims and I couldn't believe it.
When I was in an emotionally abusive relationship, one of my best friends was the one who was like your friend, who was like, get him out, change the locks, get the cleaners in. And she sort of helped me recognise it. And then I think less than 2 years later, she was in one.
Isn't that funny?
And I had to do the same for her because you never think it'll happen to you.
Never. And it creeps up on you before you know it. You're trapped, you know.
Does.
And I think there are so many women, listen to this, who are in those relationships. Maybe they're married. Maybe they can't leave, you know, for whatever reason. But it's harder to describe than violence because there's no evidence. It's all done, you know, there's no bruises.
I remember thinking one time as we were having one of just those rows and he was saying awful things, I remember thinking that I wish that he'd hit me because then that would be a very clear line that I knew if he crossed that line, then I was out. But it just felt insidious, and it was so many years ago that the term emotional abuse didn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's also very hard to recognise when it's happening to you, because you can confuse the drama for passion.
Well, I did, yeah.
True
And great
love
sex.
and great sex.
And connection on so many other levels.
Yep.
And maybe it's just a bad fight, or maybe he's had a bad day.
And this is the depth of our connection.
Yes.
It's just very passionate.
Yes. And people don't understand it.
No.
Because they don't know the real him.
Yeah.
So I think I really relate to what you're saying. And I think a lot of women will, because, and if a strong woman who thinks that she's got her shit together ends up in a relationship where she's crying on the floor.
It's not a shame.
It can happen to the best of us.
The idea of sexless marriages and sexless relationships, that women just get too tired for whatever reasons, they lose their sex drive, just sex falls off the menu because they don't feel like having it anymore. That's when a lot of men will come, and not a lot of men, but some men will come and see you for that reason. What advice would you give women who just don't want to have sex with their husbands anymore?
Oh, I know how they feel. I mean, it's exhausting having to be a mother, working in a career, going home, having sex. I was the same. The last thing you want to do is give your husband a blowjob when you're exhausted. I get that. The advice, not to feel guilty, because your sex drive will come back if that's what you want. But also communicate with your husband. I mean, maybe some women say their husbands go and find sex elsewhere. They know it's not about love. They still love their wives, and the wives still love them. But sometimes that part of their life, for whatever reason, the menopause or whatever, it's gone for them. And it's not just women. Men also lose their sex drive, and a lot of women are frustrated as well. Sex is such a complex thing for such a simple act, and I think it's all based on emotion and feelings and guilt and shame or what have you. I think the thing that married couples can do is communicate with each other and be honest with each other. And sex doesn't have to mean penis and vagina. It can mean cuddling. I mean, one of my clients holds his wife's hand every night in bed. There's no intimacy, but they hold hands. And he just needs a bit more than that, and she
needs something else held.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I think she probably just turns a blind eye, and I think a lot of women just turn. They don't want to know.
Bettina Arndt said women. I don't think she said they owe it to their husbands, but she said it's part of the sort of obligation of a marriage, and that women should throw the canoe in the water and just start paddling. And that once we start, we often enjoy it. It's more just the idea of starting.
Exactly.
And a lot of women resist.
I think that's a really good advice. I think that we always forget how much we enjoy sex. And sex isn't just about pleasing your husband. You are supposed to get pleasure from sex too. And one thing I do want to stress to women is that you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have shaved legs and a bikini wax and have gone to the gym to have a good sex life. Your husbands don't care. They just love you for you. They really do. And they just want to feel connected to you. And when men don't have sex, they feel really disconnected from their wives.
They say that women need to feel connected to have sex, and men need to have sex to feel connected.
Correct. I need cuddles and to be listened to, and men need physical release. And once you understand that, the inherent difference between men and women, I think you can have a better relationship. I would hate, just try, and I hate the word force, but force yourself to do it once a week if you can manage, and you might enjoy it. Treat yourself, buy some nice lingerie, get rid of the kids, go to a hotel, go for dinner. Although I can't have sex after food because I get really windy.
I loved what you said about that. How you said I make sure with my clients that we have sex before we go and eat.
I can't have sex with a full tummy. I just get too bloated.
I just want to go to sleep.
Exactly. And I do with clients. I can't be bothered. It's the last thing I want to do. And besides, I've got gas like there's no tomorrow.
Garlic breath.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they do too, which is kind of revolting. Please accept your curves and your bumps and your lumps and what have you, because your husband loves you for you and he just wants to be with you. I have heard men say to me, if my wife and I had sex, I would not be here. Or another man said to me, if my wife came on my business trips with me, I would not be here.
So they're not with you because you've got the perfect body?
Absolutely. I don't have the perfect body. I mean, what is the perfect body? No, they're with me because their needs aren't being met. Rightly or wrongly, they need intimacy. And if they talk to their wives about their needs, then I would think that we would, there'd be happier marriages.
So you talk about your regulars and how important it is for every sex worker to have regulars. And you describe some of your regulars who are just so lovely. There's Mr. No Name as well.
Yeah.
Tell me about Mr. No Name.
He's very generous, very, very generous. And he was my client that took me first, on an overseas trip, and she took me shopping and la la la. That was a very pretty woman kind of relationship. He was very nice. Yeah, also the first client that kept me awake snoring the whole night. And I've never been so tempted to buy earplugs in my life. I've never used them. But he's very nice, and he sees a lot of girls, and most girls know who I'm talking about. And you get some little characters. You really do. You meet some interesting people, some usually very successful men, and you learn a lot from them. And you hear about their story, their rags to riches story, and it's quite fascinating. And I'm always fascinated. I don't know if it's a journalist in me, but I always want to know why they're there. Why are you seeing escorts? Are you married? How's your marriage? This is
what's in this for you?
Yes. And they usually say, God, you're such a journalist. Are you interviewing me if you're? And I said, no. But I'm just so fascinated. A lot of girls don't really care what their clients do for work, what's their sex life like at home. But I need to know these, I need to know all this information.
Do they just like to talk about themselves?
Yeah.
Not a lot of questions about you and your life.
No, well, actually, you know what? When I went through some really shit times with Mr. Big, a lot of my clients, as I said in the book, they were really there for me. Even when my book,
funny to think about.
When my book went this week, I got flowers from my clients. I got, I got a client ringing me up do you need me to order Uber Eats for you? Are you eating? I don't remember any boyfriend doing that for me. Or they might say, I noticed you're a bit sad. Do you want me to, I was in a hotel room having a bad day. And one client who lived in a completely different state sent me around dinner and a bottle of wine from upstairs. It's just really very touching things.
Do they ever get confused and think they're in love with you?
I'm not sure whether they think they're in love, but I think that maybe they get confused with the boundaries.
Yeah. How do you keep those, with them texting you and sending you things and then thinking somehow that maybe you're in a relationship with them and they don't have to pay you anymore? I mean, does that happen sometimes?
It does, yes. And a lot of girls are better at this than me. They're very good at stipulating that this is not our time. I haven't got the nerve to say that to them, so I just say, look, I'm a bit busy, I can't talk. And they soon realise.
So how do you deal with that? Do you say, well...
I introduced non-intimate dates.
So it's like, I'll meet you for a coffee. That'll be $400.
Yeah,
I've got 90 minutes, so it'll be $800. Do you have female clients?
Occasionally. I don't. Yeah, couples mostly, married couples, and they're really beautiful because they're so into each other. You're just a spare part on the bed sometimes, and it's really nice to see the love between them. Female clients on their own? No, I haven't had any. I've had a few inquiries, but I'm too nervous. I don't know why.
But sometimes you'll do the whole girl-girl situation.
Oh, yes,
you talk about it in the book.
Yes. But I don't think I've done that on my own, just a girl and me.
Right, more three-way.
Yes.
And do many couples do that? Is that a big...
Yes.
I once did a story about that.
Did you?
Yeah.
They go for a variety of reasons. I mean, I'll never forget, one wife booked me for her husband and she wasn't there, and I felt so guilty. Oh. I felt really guilty. I kept on saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And
did he know? Was it a surprise?
Yes, no, he knew. It was for his birthday, and I just thought, wow, what a strong woman. There's no way. I'm so jealous. There's no way I would do that. And then they started seeing me together, and they were just lovely. They were in their 50s, and they had 6 kids, and they wanted to explore, a different side to their relationship, and it's brought them closer together.
So you can do that without being bisexual.
Yes,
you can just play.
Mind you, the longer I'm an escort, the more I want to turn lesbian.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you just...
I really crave the company of women.
Yeah.
I really crave the company of women. I love women. I love... I don't have many male friends. I love...
You strike
women.
me as a girl's girl.
I'm a girl's girl.
Yeah.
I love men also, but they're like, I liken men to puppies or they're just adorable little things, but I crave... the complexity of a woman.
So once Mr. Big asked you to stop being Samantha X, to shut her down, and you did because you were in love, and he still kept you in the closet. And I'm not at that. I know how that resolves. But once you broke up with him, did you have to call your regulars back and say, "Hey"?
Well, truthfully, I still saw a few on the side because I wasn't stupid enough to give it up. And once I realised pretty quickly that nothing was ever going to change and I was always going to be someone else, Bill, I think he called me Bill in his phone. I was always going to be Bill in his phone.
So you didn't even have a name in his phone, and he wasn't even hiding you from a wife that you know of. Did you go to his house?
Yeah, I went to his house, but I had to take all evidence of me away. You know.
So do you think he had someone else?
Oh, probably. You know, I think probably. Who knows? I like to think no, but who knows?
And the people that say, well, he was sleeping with other sex workers, that's karma for you.
Well, yeah, I can see what. Yeah, I mean,
I bet
probably
people
is.
would say that.
Yeah, they're probably right.
Do you date as Amanda?
Occasionally.
How?
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
Like, do you have an Amanda Tinder profile?
I do.
You do?
I do. I've just started doing it.
How does that work?
Well, it's number one, it's so addictive doing, left, right.
And you having the choice.
Yes. I've been on a few dates. But if I think they just want me for sex, I'm not interested because I can't be bothered to do it for free and I'm too tired. But, I just haven't got the energy. Because once they find out about my job, I never get rid of them.
And you always tell them what your job is?
Eventually, yes, because
What does it say on Tinder that you do?
I don't.
And when they say, so what do you do?
I say I'm an author, I'm a businesswoman, I've got my own escort agency and I'm an escort.
And then they go, oh.
They go, oh, cool, do you have an Instagram account? Because I always get the young ones.
I was going to say, millennials.
And, I think they think maybe I'm just going to be giving it away for free, which is so far from the truth. It is so far from the truth. I think they're always shocked. But I know lots of sex workers that are number one, are or married or with partners, and they have completely normal, boring lives, like I do. So
you must be really intimidating to sleep with, though.
Oh my God,
for a guy.
no! Do you think?
How could you not be? Like you're like that's what you do for a job.
But I don't have any tricks really. And you know what, mate? I get intimidated because I think they're going to expect this like amazing person in bed when they realise like I've got wobbles, cellulite, stretch marks, cesarean scars like every other woman out there. That I'm just normal, and then they think, oh my God, she charges how much? What a rip-off.
Do you feel like that with clients or only with people that you date as Amanda?
Oh, both.
Yeah.
I don't walk around thinking.
Have you ever had someone go, oh, I don't want to pay
Yes, I've had one client who booked me. This is when I was working in the establishment, and then said, actually, nah, I'm changing my mind. But you have to, like I said, you have to have skin like dinosaur. And another client, my dear doctor, he said to me, Samantha, it's so refreshing to see you got
He's
cellulite.
not your actual doctor, we should clarify.
No, he's a surgeon.
But he is a surgeon.
Yeah.
And he's very pedantic about germs. Is he the one that's pedantic
one
about
of
germs?
them. No, that's one.
You have a few doctors.
I haven't seen that one, the one I gave to Nits.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen him since, surprisingly. Oh, don't I get itchy
but
just
the
thinking about it.
doctor who saw you when you still
He's
had a
a
cold
good friend
sore.
of mine, yes. He's a surgeon. I remember he looked at the back of my thighs and said, it's so refreshing to see you have cellulite, Samantha. And
that's what woman wants to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And I just thought, oh, well, I mean, I suppose that's a backsided compliment. I don't know, backhanded compliment. But look, escorts are just normal women. Completely normal women. We are, girl next door, normal. I mean, I'm very dressed up today because I've had a lot of interviews, but I'm in my active wear most of the time, and we're just normal women that do unconventional jobs and enjoy it. Most of us enjoy it. So we don't look any better naked than wives or girlfriends. Believe me, we do not. We feel frauds in our lingerie. Believe me, like when I have to squeeze into I hate it when they ask for stockings and suspenders because my thighs roll over the suspender, and
Do guys ask for that? Do they?
Very rarely.
Yeah,
very rarely.
So cheesy.
I know, and they're a pain in the ass to put on.
Yeah.
And I very rarely, thank God. But you usually can get away with just wearing the whole.
I imagine you have a lot of nice undies.
You know what? I was laughing because this morning I was packing my bag for Melbourne. I actually don't. I have nothing matching anymore, and I thought, can I just wear a black bra with black pants, or does it have to be the matching set? It has to be the matching set. But no, I was laughing because I was thinking, God, for an escort, I've got no pants, clean pants left.
Do you work much anymore?
Not so much, no. No, not so much.
How many clients would you see a week now?
Oh, I don't work every week. So probably 6 a fortnight. I don't know. Not enough. Not enough to make me the richest girl in town, that's for sure.
Is that because demand has dried up, or because you just don't want to do it anymore?
I still enjoy it, but that's because I don't do it much. And I think because I've had my fun in the sun, and I do love it, but I'm ready for the next thing now. It's going to be very hard to turn my back on my dear regulars, and I think I'll probably always see them in some capacity.
Because they've become friends
you become very close to these people, and one's a lawyer, one's a surgeon. You always need a lawyer and a surgeon. Sometimes if I'm feeling my hypochondria, I call the surgeon. If I need a legal thing, I call the lawyer. If I need my tax done, I call the accountant. So yeah, they become good friends, and you miss that connection. But part of me does want to have a relationship and be loved. And as an escort, you spend a lot of time making other people happy, and you go home alone. And it would be really nice to have someone else that makes me happy.
Someone filling your tank.
Yes. I think you do. So you do. Your tank does get empty a lot. So it would be nice. But that's to say, I will miss the industry a great deal. I'll never leave the industry. I love the women in it. And I love the clients. I just would maybe take a step back.
Well, I hope you find that person to fill your tank. Mr. Big did not deserve you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I'm glad you got away.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Book. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Thanks for listening to No Filter. You can buy Samantha's book, Back on Top, and I highly recommend that you do. I didn't expect it to be as interesting as it was. I thought I kind of knew quite a lot about escorts or sex workers, but I just found her way of writing really engaging, and the anecdotes she tells, it's so great. If you go to iBooks at apple.co/Mamamia, you can subscribe to all our shows there. You can buy all the books from all the people that we interview on this podcast and others. You can also buy my book, Work-Strife Balance, there. And if you are after some more podcasts, well, as I said earlier in the show, you can come and see Mamamia out loud and live. We're so many things. We're out loud, we're live, we're on tour. We're not on tour just yet. We're just sort of going a few suburbs away from the office. But hopefully it will be the start of a national tour. If you just go to our Facebook page, Mamamia Out Loud, you can find the details there. Also, on our Family Life podcast, This Glorious Mess, hosts Holly Wainwright and Andrew Daddo, who have the most hilarious chemistry of two people I know, discover the new term lawnmower parent, which I really need to understand better. Plus, they speak to author Meg Mason about how to make family dinners interesting. Because Lord knows, that's a challenge. And if you are excited for Outlander to return, but can't remember what happened in the Scottish Highlands over the past 2 seasons, don't worry. We have an entire podcast dedicated to refreshing your memory on the binge. There's also my interview with Sarah James about Trump and what's going on in the White House and in Washington at the moment on the Tell Me It's Going to Be Okay podcast. And that's particularly good if you are feeling anxious about North Korea, among other things. If you liked this one and you want to know more about sex workers or the sex industry, I interviewed Madison Messina, who is the host of our podcast, The Prude and the Porn Star, and she's also Australia's Porn Star of the Year. This was another really fascinating interview. Madison came and talked to me with her girlfriend when she came out as a lesbian, and she was very concerned about how that would affect her business. She is someone who is a good friend to Amanda Goff and is someone else who's just fascinating to listen to. She's got a very different story to Amanda, but it's a great listen. Or if you want something completely different, if you're all sexed out, you can scroll back through the feed of No Filter and you can look for my interview with Georgie Gardner. We got such a lovely email actually from a listener this week who told us that it changed her life. She was in a really difficult place. She just had a miscarriage. And she remembered listening a long time ago to my conversation with Georgie Gardner. I think it was 1 or 2 years ago. And so she scrolled back in the feed and listened to that. And she said that Georgie's words she found so incredibly comforting. So there's so much golden goodness back if you scroll into the feed. I've interviewed over 100 people. And yeah, most of it pretty much has not dated. It's all amazing, just stuff with fascinating people. If you want all our podcasts in one place, if anyone's still listening after all of this rabbiting on from me, you can download the Mamamia podcast app. We would be so happy if you did because it makes it easier for us to serve you our podcasts. or you can subscribe in the iTunes store. You can suggest a guest for this or any of our podcasts, or just ask me a question or leave me a comment, Tony Jones style. If you call the pod phone on 02 8999 9386, or if you're an email kind of person like I am, flick me and my producer Liz an email at podcast@mamamia.com.au. Liz will always reply, and I sometimes will reply, but I do read everything. And I think that's all from me. This podcast was produced by Liz, also known as Eliza Ratliff, who is just a kick-ass senior producer here at Mamamia. I am Mia Friedman, and on behalf of both of us, see you on the internet.